The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Jimmy Song, Bitcoin developer.
Hey everybody, good to be here again.
Tone Vase from Liberty Life Trail.
Sup guys, back in New York, should be fun.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue 1, Segwit2X. On November 15th, the corporate takeover of Bitcoin begins. A combination of Bitcoin miners and digital currency group companies have signed on with the New York Agreement, aka the Segwit plus 2X agreement, declaring that from this point on, Bitcoin will no longer be a science project ruled by a mailing list, a BIP process, and a GitHub account. From this point on, the GitHub account will be owned by the corporations, and when they desire more transactions, all they have to do is pick up the phone and tell their programmers, who will say, "Yes, sir." This episode is dedicated to discussing all aspects of this attack in detail and attempting to answer the question, will the deceptive Segwit2X attack succeed? Issue 1, Technical Attack. Segwit2X makes an exact copy of the Bitcoin blockchain and may confuse SPV nodes as well as to which chain to follow. It does not include replay protection, assuring that it will not just be another altcoin like Bitcoin Cash. Its transactions may be replayed on one network or the other, costing users their hard-earned Bitcoins or 2X Bitcoins. Additionally, it uses the same address space as Bitcoin. Jimmy Song, will the technical attack of Segwit2X be successful?
Absolutely not. I think people will be much more careful with their money than, like a lot of scaremongers are saying. People own a lot of Bitcoin, right? And when you have money, you're going to be very careful with it. And there are ways to protect against replay attacks, including faucets and things like that. I outlined it in an article I wrote earlier this week. But basically, if you just buy like $1 worth of Bitcoin on an exchange, whichever fork that you want, Bitcoin 2X or Bitcoin 1X, I guess, whichever one that you want, you just buy like $1 of it, get that UTXO, and that's a replay protected UTXO. You spend your Bitcoin with it and you're replay protected. So it's not like there aren't other options. There are ways to protect against replay attacks. As far as SPV nodes go, Luke Dash Jr. came up with a really easy way to figure out whether or not you can figure out which side you're on. Just download the block, that the forking block. If it's greater than 1 megabyte, then you're on the 2X side of the fork. Or I mean, if the download the legacy version of the forking block, and if it's greater than 1 megabyte, then you're on the 2X side. If it's 1 megabyte or less, then you're on the other side. That's it's not that hard of an upgrade to make. So it may be fooling some if you don't upgrade, but I mean, again, you got to be careful with your money. If you're holding
Jimmy, that doesn't make sense to me, right? Because the new fork is coming off of a larger block. It's Segwit2. It's a fork off of Segwit, right? This sounds like
this is why I said the legacy block size
on the Bcash stuff.
Well, so this is why I'm saying it's a legacy block size. So there are network calls for non-upgraded nodes that you can make, and sort of the other nodes will tell you what sort of like a backwards compatible version of the block, and that still has to be 1 megabyte or less. And if you get the real block, which has all the Segwit information, it can be greater than 1 megabyte. But as an SPV node, you can sort of pretend to be a non-upgraded node and ask whoever you're getting your SPV information from, hey, can you give me this this block, and pretend you're a non-upgraded node, pre-Segwit node, and they will give you the block. And if it's greater than 1 megabyte, then you're on the 2X side of the hard fork. If it's less than 1 megabyte, then you're on the 1X side. So there's a pretty easy technical solution to all of this stuff, and it's not like it's easy enough to solve. It's just you need people to go and do it, which obviously is very.
So you believe replay protection could be solved, but technically, do you believe they'll be able to make a copy of the blockchain and provide a hard fork similar to the Bcash project?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what they're doing, right? Like they're going to hard fork, and I mean wallet developers, it's going to be painful for them because they're all going to have to do something to be able to, especially the SPV wallets, do something to detect which side they're on. It looks like they're talking about some sort of opt-in replay protection, which you may be able to utilize as well. But yeah, I mean, there's so many ways in which you can protect yourself against it. And if you're a holder, you don't really care. You're just going to wait it out anyway until there's like a well-known, well-proven solution, and you're going to utilize that. So, in a sense, I'm not as sympathetic to the hypothetical, really ignorant and really reckless newbie that everyone's trying to protect against themselves, or protect them from themselves. If you are stupid enough to like make rash transactions right after the hard fork, well, that's on you. I think like most of the Bitcoin space is saying there's this big thing coming up, be very, very careful, and you don't listen to them, well, that's again on you. And we don't need to protect people from themselves. I think people should go and learn whatever it is that they need to learn. I mean, there are ways to protect yourself. There are ways to upgrade your wallet. Go do that first instead of rashly saying I'm going to transfer 200 coins to Coinbase and I don't care, whatever. Again, I've said this about
wallet. If the SPV wallet developers do nothing, which chain will their wallets go to?
It depends on what the server is. So Mycelium has customized servers, and who knows what they follow. Other ones depend. Like Electrum has Electrum servers, and I presume they'll be on the 1x chain because their developers seem more sympathetic to that side. But I mean, it really depends on the servers that these wallets sort of depend on, and this is why a lot of Bitcoin developers say SPV is dead, because there's no real way to verify a lot of this stuff. And if they were doing like a really good hard fork, what you would do is have like some sort of bit signaling in the block header that tells you what fork you're on. But that's not something that any of the hard forks so far have been interested in. But I mean, regardless of that, I've said this before about replay attacks, right? It's not really a consumer issue. Most of the time when you're sending Bitcoins to somebody, it's to an exchange or a service or something like that. And those people, well, if your transaction gets replayed, they just got, some on the other chain, they're going to have to refund it to you, or else you are going to sue them. A lot of other consumers are going to sue them as well. I mean, like, they don't have to send it to you right away, obviously, but they do have to eventually. I mean, there are consumer protection laws against this very thing, right? Like, if you hand somebody $100, what you think? No,
libertarians, Jimmy, libertarians and Bitcoins don't believe in consumer protection laws, man. This has already been established on the show many times.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just saying that, this is from the perspective of an exchange or whatever. They're going to have to give it back. I mean, like, we're not talking about idealized libertarian utopia here. We're talking about what's going on today and what's going to happen with 2x. If you send some money to an exchange and you get replay attacked and they have both, well, they're kind of obligated to send it back to you. I mean, maybe it's in their terms and conditions that you don't get yours back for a while or something, but if they don't give it back to you, they're asking for a class action lawsuit. The people that the replay attacks really affect are the actual exchanges and merchants and all those people. And they're going to figure their stuff out. It's in their economic interest to do so. And people that didn't figure it out, like Coinbase, when Ethereum Classic happened, well, they lost a bunch of money. So they've learned their lesson. They're going to make sure that their coins are tainted only for one chain and stuff like that. So I mean, like, this is why you will probably be able to buy $1 worth of whichever chain you want to transact on. Go get that UTXO and combine it in your transaction, and now you're replay protected. And any descendants of that transaction are replay protected. So I mean, it's not a hard problem. It's something that you can do. I don't think it's as big a deal as everyone makes it out to be. And people will be careful. That's really my take on it.
All right, I'd just like to ask everyone to give us a thumbs up and a share so that more people will watch this video. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe down below. Tone Vase, will their technical attack be successful?
Well, I'm not really qualified to speak about the technical attack, but I will say that As far as SPV wallets are concerned, like I'm not 100% sure yet where I'm going to be holding my coins when the hard fork comes. I will be going away on my travels as of tomorrow, and I'll be back on the 10th. So I really hope that this fork does not happen before the 10th, because I'm going to need time to figure out what I'm doing. Right now, I am leaning
scheduled for November 15th.
Yeah, but schedule.
So it's a block height issue. I think, Jimmy, it has to reach a certain block height.
Yeah, but the other fork, the B Gold fork, came like 3 days early, so I wasn't prepared. Actually, a bunch of my transactions got stuck in the mempool. I was too cheap to pay a transaction fee, so I missed it by like 2 blocks. I was actually kind of pissed about that. But not that it matters. I'm probably not going to be cashing those out. I'm still confused on how the hell to cash those out. It's not as clear as it was with the Bcash people.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to know until like early November. Nobody knows right now.
But here's the thing, right? Like literally, we have commentators that are watching us live telling us they've cashed theirs out already. So I have
only if you held it at an exchange that split them for you. That's the only way.
That's not what the comment said. The comment said they went to like the bgold.org and they were able to split them. So I don't
think you can't do that.
They're lying. Even though there's not a blockchain yet, the exchange would give you your B Gold, then you could sell it, and then later on they're going to sell your B Gold if it becomes available. Yeah.
Right. That's how I figured, which is kind of messed up, because it gives people that are idiots an advantage because they're storing all that Bitcoin on an exchange. And like basically, anyway, we're not going to talk about B Gold here, but like no one knows what they're doing. Everyone like there's like 20 people in this whole space that understand what the hell they're doing, and like 19 of them are in core, right? So this is why and the other one is probably Jimmy, who's not technically a core, right? Like this is why this is why I'm not really scared of this hard fork. Now, I will say, as far as SPV wallets are concerned, I mean, I've always been a huge fan of Airbits, but I have absolutely no clue where Airbit stands on this debate, and Airbit still hasn't gotten Segwit addresses. So there's no way I'm gonna have my Bitcoin on Airbits when it comes to the next fork. I'll be moving everything over to Green Address. Not everything. I mean, I'm not sure. I gotta look if hardware wallets is a good place to be storing your coins during this time. But
Trezor's fine. They have Segwit addresses, and
not Segwit, like just to make sure. So I mean, as far as like SPV wallets and phone wallets go, the only wallet that I really trust at this point going forward is going to be Green Address, because the core developer is a core dev, Lawrence. I've met him when I was in Italy. I kind of trust that wallet. So that's,
I mean, if you want a core dev wallet, just use the Bitcoin Core wallet.
Well, Jimmy, for the Trezor, do they have to be in Segwit addresses? What if they're in a normal address?
You can be at any kind of address, and you'll get your coins.
I don't want to store Bitcoin on a Windows machine.
You don't have to use a Windows machine. You can use a Linux machine. You can use a Mac. You can use whatever.
I don't have a Linux machine, so I'm kind of stuck on a Windows machine, which is why I'm not storing my Bitcoin on a core node.
The hardcore libertarians tell me they buy an old laptop and they put Linux on that, and then they take the hard drive out, and then they run the USB,
I know,
and run the tails, and then all this stuff. So
I know I gotta find the time to do all that. But anyway, I've never used Linux. Look, sometimes the best security is the security you're familiar with, and not try to fuck around installing an operating system that you then accidentally delete because you don't know how to use the operating system, right? So,
or if you try to dual boot your computer and you don't know what you're doing, sometimes Windows installs over your Linux.
I think that this kind of brings up something that I've noticed, which is that everyone is absolutely terrified of moving their Bitcoins, and they're being forced to move it again during the 2x thing.
Yes, no, this shit is bad. I honestly think this is the last time this is going to happen. Now
I don't think so. I think there's going to be like 20 more next year. I mean, like
we need an auto splitting wallet that could auto split and sell, where you just don't have to do this anymore.
Yeah, I would love a hardware wallet that can take care of a lot of stuff for you, that's insured, so that you don't have to worry about any of this stuff. But yeah, not one that exists yet.
But in any case, so as far as technicals go, like there's nobody there's nobody there that knows what they're doing. I mean, this shit is going to be a disaster. Like no one at Bcash knows what they're doing. I mean, they're like not real programmers as far as I'm concerned. Like I would never trust my money to these people. All you have is Jeff Garzik. Lately, all I'm hearing is how Jeff Garzik is creating another like altcoin or an ICO
Metronome.
or whatever. What is that?
It sounds just like cross-atomic swaps. It's like cross-atomic swaps, the coin.
I didn't really read into it, but the chatter I heard.
Is he creating an app coin? Please tell me it's an app coin. Please tell me it's another Ethereum where you have to use his currency in order to buy.
It's something where you can like trade Bitcoin some other chain or something. Yeah.
I mean, again, these things are completely ridiculous, and I don't think this is going to spoof the market. I mean, I'm still. The reason why I'm not scared is because Bitcoin price isn't scared. We're still near all-time highs. Like it's not scaring me. I'll talk about the price probably a little later in the show. But yeah. So the technical thing, I'll leave that up to Jimmy. But I'm gonna once I'm back on November 10th back in New York. I mean, I'm gonna be tunnel vision into how to protect my Bitcoin, because now it's getting serious now. Like before, I didn't really care because I didn't have that much Bitcoin. But I'm not saying I have a lot of Bitcoin now, but it's with the current price, I do need to take this a little more seriously than I have in the past.
All right, let's move on to the exit question. What can be done to reduce the effectiveness of Segwit2X technical attack? Jimmy Song.
Well, I mean, it just comes down to what happens at every hard fork, which is that developers need to go develop stuff. That's really all it comes down to. And this is why I think price will go up, because when developers contribute to the ecosystem, that makes the entire ecosystem stronger and more immune to other similar things that happen in the future. Like developers are going to have to put in stuff like coin control, which will allow you to select specifically which UTXOs that you want to use. They're going to have to put in something to control lock time, which most of them don't, most wallets don't, but that's another way to sort of split your coins. They're going to probably, SPV wallets are going to have to let you select what kind of nodes you want to connect to. And like verify that by downloading a particular thing. These are all features that I think are very useful for the entire network to have. It's just that wallet developers and all these other people haven't had a reason to go and make them. Well, once you make them, that makes Bitcoin stronger. That makes Bitcoin more anti-fragile. That should, in theory, at least, or at least the market seems to agree with me, that should make the price go up. That's what I think.
And if they make dozens more of these hard forks next year, the wallets would have even more reason to have these features, right, Jimmy?
Absolutely, and it'll be effective going forward. So I mean, I know it sucks as wallet developers to have to work on this stuff instead of the more exciting stuff like Segwit and some of the mass stuff that they're talking about. But I'm telling you guys, immunize against this now. And I call on all the wallet developers to go and make these features available so that users have more control. Like just put it in expert mode or something. And then like other people will make like videos that will show them exactly how to split their coins or whatever using these techniques. And really, you need to give users that kind of power. And this is what's going to be necessary to immunize against these future things. So I know it sucks. I've been a wallet developer, and I talk to many wallet developers, and they're like, yeah, I want to work on all this other stuff. And these hard forks, they're like taking my time away from doing all this other stuff. I know, I get that. And it really sucks because you'd love to put in those features. Right now, what the network needs is immunization, right? Like it would be nice to pick up new exercising stuff. Right now, you just need to, take some medicine. That's all you really need. And I feel for them because I've been one, but like go with what's needed and you will make the price go up and you will be contributing and you are the heroes of the ecosystem.
All right, Tone Vase.
Well, I kind of forgot what the question was, but I wanted to comment on what Jimmy said. What Jimmy was, and we've been talking about this on this show and forever, in that the same people that are complaining that Core and Bitcoin is too slow to give us good features are the same people that are constantly getting in the way with hard forking and making all of these developers work on defense instead of creating new features. And it's frustrating to no end. Eric Lombroso has been talking about this for years.
All right, and what can be done to reduce the effectiveness of Segwit2X's technical attack?
That's actually a really good question. Honestly, the community just needs to stand up. I mean, they need to stand up. They need to they need to stomp a bar. Like I just like yesterday, I read that article from Mike Belshi from BitGo. Holy shit. I've been giving Zappo a lot of shit lately. This guy, it was the worst article I have ever read. How in the world can anyone use BitGo? Unless you just go use PayPal. Like, why in the world do you want Bitcoin if these are the types of people you want, holding on to your Bitcoin? I mean, people just got to realize what Bitcoin is.
To be fair, BitGo's Mike Belshi is on the 2X side, but Ben Davenport, Jameson Lobb, they also work for BitGo, and they often have public spats about 2X, even though they don't work with the same company.
To be like they're working for a certain government, and we have to say you have to quit if you want to have any integrity anymore. You have to quit, because I do agree with you that Davenport's fought with Belshi publicly. Jameson Lobb seems very level-headed, but like Tone's saying, when you read what Belshi is writing to the mailing list and what his plans are for Segwit2X, which we'll talk about more in the future, like in this show, it's worrisome. It's worrisome what they're trying to do.
Yeah, you just gotta leave those companies. Look, I'm sorry, guys. I know you think you're doing good by. Charlie Lee got the hell out of Coinbase eventually. Bitcoin is up. I'm sure you guys have money. Don't support.
I know Ben Davenport does not need to work. He's doing it because he believes in the mission of BitGo. I disagree with you guys. I don't think these people should leave. I think they should fight for what they believe in. I mean, whatever it is. And I think Belshi is doing the right thing if that's what he believes. I think that Davenport's doing the right thing if that's what he believes. These aren't like two peons there. This is the CEO and CTO of BitGo. Like they're the two biggest people at that company. So, I mean, I would say, they're like, I respect both of them. I know both of them. And I don't agree that you should just leave these companies because you think, one person there like disagrees with you. I think that's the wrong way to go about it. One person
that's the CEO that's writing on mailing list and seems to be planning a large and involved conspiracy. To go to an example from recent history, if Secretary of State Colin Powell had resigned before the Iraq War, maybe we wouldn't have gone to war in like a 2-week process. Maybe it would have slowed it down. Maybe we wouldn't have gone to war. People have to consider this, and their actions matter, even if their action is to just stay in a job or not to do anything. It does matter.
Jimmy. Look, you do make sense. I mean, this is a rough one. I didn't really mean it like people at those companies should quit. People need to realize what companies they're using. Like, don't use Zappo. Don't use Coinbase. Don't support these companies. Like, call them out publicly. Like what I did on Twitter today, calling out Barry Silbert publicly. I really don't care who these people are. I'll probably get to that in my story of the week.
If the technical staffs of these companies disagree with what they're doing, they need to speak up. They need to quit their jobs. Like Jimmy says, they probably have Bitcoin. They're fine. And they need to take action now, because if they just sit around and let this happen, they will be in some way responsible.
Yeah, no. There are some companies where the CEO is more important than the CTO, like Amazon, for example. But in a technology company, the CEO is pretty much the figurehead. The CTO should know should be the guy actually driving the car.
Well, I mean, regardless of what you guys think about like what employees should do, I think the bigger issue I think that Tone brought up is what should customers do if you're using BitGo. I mean, as far as I can tell, it's not like their policy to follow one chain or the other just yet. I think they're going to support both. So, I mean, as far as if you're a customer, that's really all you care about is what are my options afterwards? And if they support both, they support both. I think most exchanges and most companies should be supporting both at a minimum, just so like you have access to both coins
how do you support
that you're
both
entitled to.
How do you support both without replay protection? I mean, again, this is the question on everybody's mind, including mine, who aren't as technical as some others. I choose not to be technical. I could have been. I was supposed to be.
No, you absolutely can. Like as a company, you can do manual replay protection. I laid that out in the article, right? You go get some tainted coins, or you taint them yourself using using lock time or whatever. There's many ways to do it. But it shouldn't be very hard for an exchange or merchant processor to get them. And once you have it, then you can taint everything else. It's very easy. And
it's also not just the question of replay protection. There's the issue of the name and other issues. But let's move on to the next issue where we'll discuss this more. Issue 2, economic attack. Large bag holders may sell their Bitcoins and their altcoins, depressing both markets and boosting the price of Segwit2X coin. Roger Ver has personally bet at least 250 Bitcoin, $1 million, perhaps even 1,000 Bitcoin or $4 million, trading his real Bitcoin for an equal amount of Segwit2X coin. Tone Vase, does Roger know something we don't know? Will Segwit2X's economic attack be successful?
No. That was a dumb bet by Roger. Like it's I wish I mean, even if I had 250 Bitcoin, I don't know, I was like thinking about that all night. Like if I had exactly 250 Bitcoin, would I have made the bet? Now, obviously, from a financial perspective, it's a no-brainer. I would do that bet 100 out of 100 times. But do I want to tell the world that I have 250 Bitcoin, right? And do I want to put them in an address, putting myself on the radar? So that's the other thing. Like privately, I probably would have, if I had the option, I should have just emailed them and I'm like, hey, I'll put up all of my Bitcoin.
But that's the thing. He wouldn't want it privately. He wants it publicly. Public is a very important part of this deal for Roger.
Right. Like I would have totally done it privately for every single Satoshi that I own. And I would just double the number of my Bitcoin. I would have absolutely done it. I mean, Peter Todd, I actually asked Peter Todd this question when he was speaking in Prague. I don't know if you weren't in that room, Thomas. And I asked Peter Todd about the Segwit2X, and this is a room of like, a lot of people are new to Bitcoin for the first time, and Peter Todd is in the front of the room, and he's like, hey, so if I was to offer a 1-for-1 exchange of my Bitcoin for your 2X coin, who would do it? And nobody raised their hand, right? And that was a good example. Like, who do you know besides Roger Ver that would do this? Like this is nuts. I mean, economically, it's not. Like, in a way, the more it's worth, the better, because I would love to get another 10 or 20% of my Bitcoin. But as we just saw with B Gold, like right now, there's a tiny percentage of BitGold, B Gold, whatever the hell it's called, is out there on exchanges, and it's already being traded at like 3% of the value of a Bitcoin. So why does anybody think that and B Gold is 100 times better than the Segwit2X garbage, because we know it's centralized by a bunch of companies, like you started off the show with, right? So like this is completely insane. Like I know people like Roger Ver think that economic activity drives the value of your coin, but there's absolutely nothing stopping this coin from changing the economic formula. I mean, Bcash is about to change its economic formula on how fast the inflation rate is, and once this B2X coin is controlled by 1 or 2 developers, controlled by a couple of companies, in bed with a couple of miners, there's nothing stopping them from making it a 42 million supply of Bitcoin or more. Like, there's absolutely no decentralization rules anymore. It becomes another PayPal. So, I mean, yeah, it may have economic activity, but it loses the store of value property. So, I would love for this thing to be 20% to cash out, but I don't even think it will be.
Jimmy Song.
Well, so economically speaking, I think there are enough holders on at least the 1x side that it's going to be fine, right? Like, and this is something that I've talked about. The economic anti-fragility of Bitcoin is based on the holders, and as long as you have a lot of holders, pretty much like it's going to be very, very difficult to cause them to sell, or I mean, to depress the price too much, because you have like a basis of people that really believe in it. And there's a lot of people that believe in the 1x side, right? Like they believe that the original Bitcoin is the real Bitcoin. And this is something that Alex Morkos has said repeatedly, which is that the people on the core side have conviction in their belief. The people on the 2x side are just sort of waiting to see what's going to happen, and they're willing to drop their belief. And the one that's convicted of their belief, they're going to be the ones that win for that reason. And economically, this is absolutely true. If you truly believe in it, you're not going to sell. And there's not going to be any panic. It's interesting that you brought up that bet, and it was actually Roger Ver bet 1,000 Bitcoins, 250 each to Charlie Lee, Ben Davenport, Alex Morkos, and Tor Demeester. Ben Davenport, as we saw in the last segment, is CTO of BitGo. So that's his. He really believes that it's actually going to be a lot better for the 1x or core side than the 2x side. And like they're making these bets because the futures markets and things like that seem to indicate that it's going to be great for the 1x side. And Adam Back has been asking just about anybody that will listen, I will trade you 2 Segwit2X coins for every 1x coin, like right now. I will do that gladly. And he's asked everybody. There isn't anybody that is willing to take him up on his offer. So if you're a viewer, you believe in Segwit2X, and you want to make a bet, Adam Back, well, we'll bet with you, and you will have a signature from a transaction. At least it's a digital signature from one of the keys that Adam Back controls. So maybe that'll be worth something someday. I don't know. But yeah, that's one way to get in on this is that. And yeah, and these things kind of have to be public, right? There's no if it was private, then one party can kind of back out and not really feel any of the consequences. So it's
no, that's not necessarily true, right? I mean, you can put them in a multi-sig. You can put it in.
Oh, if you put it in an escrow, yeah, you can do something.
Yeah. No. It's just that by public, I mean, it's like it. I mean, like I would do this bet. I'm not going to say the number of Bitcoin, but I would totally do these bets. Mm-hmm. I just don't want the world to know like what my Bitcoin addresses are or what, because
how much you own, yeah.
Right. I went through great lengths buying all of my Bitcoin in cash. I'm not going to like dox myself with that now. It's bad enough I'm already moving all my shit around.
And now you have to do that to get all the new hard forks. Let's move on to the exit question. What can be done to reduce the effectiveness of Segwit2X's economic attack, which you both seem to think won't be a problem? Tone Vase.
I think the biggest thing we need is clarity from any remote middleman, including SPV wallets. We need complete clarity as to what exchanges plan to do, as to what payment processors are going to do, wallets are going to do. Like I'm going to be all over what do you call them? Airbit's website and their blog. I want to know what nodes they're going to be using, right? I think the more clarity we have as to the economic players and how they're treating this, the better it'll be. And I think if these economic players are forced to make a decision, I mean, here's how you force a decision. If you are not speaking out about, if you're, let's say you're leaning towards the 2x side, you're sympathetic to the 2x side, and you feel that making that statement publicly this early in the game will cost you economically, that should tell you you're an idiot. Okay, so if you are remotely interested in the 2x and you're not saying it publicly because it'll hurt you, you're a problem. you either come out and say it, you're in support of it, and deal with the economic consequences of your company, or you shouldn't be running that company. And I think the more pressure people start putting on these companies to provide clarity, they will be forced to leave the 2X, the signer. They'll be forced to exit the stupid contract that they signed.
Jimmy Song.
Can you repeat the question?
What can be done to reduce the effectiveness of Segwit2X's economic attack?
I don't think we need to do anything. As long as you have economic holders, people that truly believe on the core side, then core's not going away. And 2X has a chance of going away, but I don't think it will. I think it'll stay as well. But you don't need to do anything because this disorder, like when you have something like this happen, when you have a hard fork happen, what's going to happen is people are going to want to hold on to it even more, right? Like unless there's, even with a big disordering event, the weak hands are the ones that shake out. The people that are truly have that conviction, they're going to, be more convicted in their belief, and it's going to harden their belief, if anything, and that will cause them to say, "I'm never going to sell." Right? I will always stick with this. Whereas before, when there was a question and debate, and it was like sort of an open discussion, maybe people were like, "Oh, I don't know, maybe this could work or whatever." But it's coming to a head. You're sort of forced to decide, and every behavioral psychology thing that you've study says that when you're forced to make a decision, you tend to stick by it, right? Like it's psychologically you tend to get more married to your decision, if you will. And I think that's what's going to happen with this. You don't need to do anything. In fact, this is the exact sort of thing to make holders want to hold more. And that's a good thing for the entire ecosystem.
All right, bonus question. If Roger Ver has, as it's rumored, 100,000 to 300,000 Bitcoin, aka 500 million to $1 billion, does $1 million mean anything to him? Tone Vase.
No, it doesn't. But you chip away at it. You chip away at it. I mean, like the more, rich people that got lucky being rich don't tend to hold on to that money. They tend to get separated from that money. So you chip away at it every chance you get. And if he's separated by 1,000 Bitcoin based on stupidity, I'm okay with that. I'm happy for that.
Jimmy Song.
I mean, of course it means something, and it's not just $1 million. It's 1,000 Bitcoin, which is $6 million almost. That's a lot of money, and of course he cares. I mean, even if you're a billionaire, you care about millions of dollars, right? Like it's still a decent amount of your stash. If your net worth is $100,000. And somebody said, okay, well, here's a bet for $6,000, which is 0.6% of your net wealth. Yeah, of course you're going to care. I mean, it's still $6,000. I mean, that's a lot of money. I mean, there's a reason why things are priced the way they are. Like if you were targeting ultra rich people, turns out they actually care about price still. It doesn't matter. And a lot of these people that got really rich, I found that they really, really like money. There's a reason why Warren Buffett still drives a car from 1985 or something like that. He loves money that much that he doesn't care to buy another car. And a lot of people that have a lot of money are kind of like that. And Roger Ver, he's gonna feel it, right? Like $6 million is a lot of money. Assuming Segwit2X trades at around 13%. That ends up being like $5 million. That's a lot of money. I'm sure he's gonna feel it. I'm sure he's going to think about it, or he'll reinvest it, or do something else to make back that money, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, to say that it doesn't matter to him, I think that's ridiculous. Of course, it matters to him.
All right, moving on to issue 3. Screen share. Here we go. Longest chain, most accumulated difficulty. According to BitGo CEO Mike Belshi, writing to the Segwit2X mailing list, Segwit2X coin will have 90% of the miners joining them on the new chain by contractual agreement. With 90% of the hash power missing, the real Bitcoin network could grind to a halt, slowing block size and allowing Segwit2X supporters to make the argument that their coin has the most hash and the fastest blocks. Will the Segwit2X's longest chain attack be successful? Jimmy Song.
I mean, I don't know what you mean by like attack in this instance. I mean, basically what he's saying is he thinks the miners will stay and like lose a lot of money in opportunity cost at least, and possibly also in terms of actual physical costs. Because I mean, like depending on how Segwit2X is valued versus actual Bitcoin or actual Bitcoin Core, yeah, like it may be unprofitable to mine that. And are a lot of miners willing to do that? I don't know. I mean, at the very least, I think F2 Pool and several others, I think 90% is a very generous estimate. At the very least, F2 Pool, Slush, and a bunch of others are not going to mine the 2X hard fork. And I think they, like you know, the holders that I talked about in the last segment, they're true believers in the core chain, and they'll do whatever it takes to go do that. And you know, they'll be mining very profitably, whereas everybody else will not, if that's the case. And you know, I mean, we talked about Bitfury before. You know, the Alex Petrov from Bitfury basically said, you know, 2X agreement's supposed to end up in one chain. If it ends up in two chains, then I have no obligation to mine on either chain. Like I can do whatever I want. And if that's the case, then he's going to go with the chain that's more profitable, which at least according to futures markets is Bitcoin Core. I think Bobby Lee from BTCC, I think he'll probably say something pretty similar as soon as 2X hard forks. And there are many others. There's one pool, I forget which, that stopped signaling for Segwit2X. Stopped putting NYA in the Coinbase today, and you know, they might be thinking of leaving. I think 90% is a very, very generous estimate. But even if it's 90%, say we have 10%, say Bitcoin Core has 10% of the hash rate. That means you know, instead of 10-minute blocks, you have 100-minute blocks. All right, so hour 40 minutes. Big deal. And it takes, instead of 2 weeks, it takes 20 weeks to do the adjustment, though we might be in the middle somewhere or whatever. Big deal. So it takes like 20 weeks, like 4 or 5 months to do the adjustment. But by then, more hash power will be on, and you know, there will be, you know, what I mean, like worst case scenario is still not that bad. I don't see this like this as a very serious attack. And I think the percentages will be closer to like 40 or 50%, because we know from Bitcoin Cash that about 40% of miners just switch based on whatever is most profitable because they need to make back their costs. We also know that there are sort of true believers that constitute another 10%. So I think the split will be much closer to 50-50, if not much more on the core side than 90-10 Segwit2X to Bitcoin Core. I think that's just an unrealistic estimate.
It's not just the matter of the time. It's also the matter of if they would get the. Go ahead, Tom. I don't know. But it's also the matter of the media question. What they're going to be able to say in the media if Bitcoin Core or whatever you want to call it can't adjust their difficulty for 4 months. They're going to have 4 months of media time. Gemini Trading already said after 48 hours they're going to decide who to call Bitcoin. If they have 4 months to complain about the block times, don't you think it'll have an effect, Jimmy?
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, this is at its heart about what Bitcoin is. Is it a store of value or is it a medium of exchange? Having long block times is inconvenient for medium of exchange. But for store of value, it doesn't matter that much. And again, if you have a lot of holders, a lot of people that believe in it, which I think Bitcoin Core does, then it doesn't matter. You can have 100-minute blocks. That's okay. And the economics are entirely in the favor of Core in that instance, because you have a much more profitable coin to mine, and if people aren't moving over, well, then you're an idiot as a pool. You're going to lose money, and if you lose money long enough, you're just going to go bankrupt. And other miners, will want to jump in and take advantage of that profit opportunity, and that's huge, right? Like you're going to have all these like let's say 90% stay on Segwit2X. That will be the best thing for the mining industry possible, because there are going to be so many mining companies that are starting up that will want to get into this space, because all these people are losing money and they have this juicy target that they can go after as a result. I mean, you would be absolutely an idiot, like as a business person, to do that for that long. So I can't. It's a cartel like you're assuming cartel behavior with 90% staying on one side, and cartels are not economically stable. If one person breaks, the dam breaks, and as long as the economics are in that one side, I mean, it's just going. The mining hash power will. I mean, it might take a while, but it will reflect exactly what the price is, and that's just the reality of capitalism and economics in general.
Now, just for reference, how much was burned supporting Bcash? I think it was at least $100 million in opportunity cost. Additionally, 2 unknown miners continue to provide most of the hash support. How much was in Bcash?
I'm not sure, and I haven't bothered to calculate it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was that much in opportunity cost. But I mean, like it gets very different though once it gets to be unprofitable. So say it's 90-10, and Segwit2X coin is worth like 7% of Bitcoin, and they start losing some serious money there. Then it gets like you start not being able to pay for your electricity and stuff, and you start being forced to mine the other coin because that's your only other source of income. Like that gets very crazy from sort of a game theory scenario. I really need to write a game theory article on this at some point. But yeah, I mean that's
they might also have significant savings due to altcoin investments and ICO investments and holding large amounts of Bitcoin. We don't know how long they would be able to survive in a siege type situation.
Yeah, and this is why wars are expensive. I don't think this is a war that lasts very long, because again, this is cartel-like behavior. You're keeping a giant alliance together to do the siege, and if any one of them leave, then you open up a supply line to the castle, whatever. And this is not it's not easy to do. There's already a couple of supply lines. As long as there are some miners, it's going to survive. And I can't, economically, it does not make sense to do it over the long term. It might, just to try to see what would happen for a month. I don't see it lasting any longer than that.
Tone Vase.
Yeah, a couple of comments. First of all, that 90% miners comment. I mean, I was talking about how ridiculous that comment was, weeks ago, months ago. That's not happening. Jimmy explained it well. I'm not going to repeat what he said. I will say the one thing that bothers me a lot is a lot of these people, Roger Ver included, and definitely Barry Silbert, like a lot of these guys, they got their hands into so many shit coins that them destroying Bitcoin is the best thing for their financial success. And that's the kind of part that bothers me. And earlier today, like I sent out a tweet, I'll probably show it during my story of the week, is that I don't understand how Barry Silbert hasn't been yet arrested by the SEC for everything he's been doing. Between pumping, what do you call it? Between pumping Ethereum Classic after buying it, exactly, trying to create an Ethereum ETF to leech off the Ethereum name, creating Zcash and profiting from the mining of Zcash, and now pumping it into a trust that then he'll create another pink sheet ETF where he gets to profit from it from all angles, right? Like, I don't understand how all of that isn't a financial conflict of interest and insider trading. Like, I just don't understand how that isn't that. But anyway,
it sounds like the Wolf of Wall Street. He's got the story going.
Right. But anyway, I'm not here to like police the space. I'm just here to point out the hypocrisy of all these people saying how free it is. Meanwhile, the shit that's under the hood is worse than anything on Wall Street that I've ever seen personally, or most of the stuff that I've heard. But in any case, one more thing I forgot to mention, guys, please download the latest Bitcoin Core node, run it. The Bitcoin Core developers will continue to try and block the garbage 2x transactions. So the more of those nodes are on the system, the more it will show the miners that they will have nowhere to move their coins. If 80% of the nodes are running core version, 15 point something, 0.15 something, right? Then the miners will get the hint that they're mining shit that isn't movable, okay? And to be honest with you, it was the user activated soft fork were scarier. We were prepared for 5% miner support, and we were still gonna do it, okay? So them saying that they have 90% support, I'm like, you know what? Us, the ones that supported user activated soft fork, were ready for a 95% miner non-compliance, and we were ready for that. So if they think they can get 90%, which they won't, fine, we'll deal with it.
Let's move on to the exit question. What can be done to reduce the effectiveness of Segwit2X's longest chain attack? Jimmy Song.
Well, I don't think it's an attack. I want to just comment quickly on what Tone said regarding Bitcoin nodes. Honestly, I don't think the number of nodes matters, because that's easily Sybil attackable. You can spin up as many nodes of either side as much as you want. So I don't think that matters, or
it matters. No, Jimmy, it matters because we haven't really seen. Most people in Bitcoin, do you honestly think that the majority of the Bitcoin Core Segwit nodes, like the X1 Segwit nodes, do you honestly think people are faking those?
It doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter it doesn't matter if 1 million people spin those up. It's not going to change anyone's mind. I mean, like, the reason why you run a full node is so you can have your own privacy, and you don't have to depend on somebody else.
I agree. I agree.
That's the reason why you run it. It's not to send a message to the miners or whatever, because they're not going to receive it. It's not a message that they find to be valid. It's not a message that most people find to be valid. Whatever number of nodes there are, it's just the number of nodes there are. I don't think it's necessarily.
I gotta disagree. When people were watching, how many people were putting up their nodes, and even putting not even a core node, like core wasn't even supporting the user activated soft fork, and people still went out and built and put these nodes online with potentially not approved core software to support the user activated soft fork. I think that sent a huge message to the miners that ended up having them save face by doing this dumb 2x agreement. Like, I think it makes a difference. I really do.
I don't think so. I think they saw that from other places. The message they got was from the people that were planning it, and the software that was actually developed, not by the number of nodes. That said, let's get back to the question. What was the question, Thomas? I'm trying to remember.
What can be done to reduce the effectiveness of the longest chain attack?
I wouldn't characterize it as an attack. That's just what a hard fork is, and one chain's going to be longer than the other, I guess, or have more accumulated difficulty. If exchanges choose to do that, that's entirely their right. The thing is, there are economic consequences to that. If you say the longest accumulated one is Bitcoin, and that's what we're going to trade it at, well, then people might not trade on your thing, right? Like, there are social consequences to doing whatever. And as much influence as Gemini might have, if they go with Segwit2X as Bitcoin, quote unquote, even though it's trading at like $400 versus, the one leg, and they labeled the other one legacy or something like that, even though it's trading at 5,900 or whatever. That's just going to look really dumb, first of all. And second, it's going to be obvious to anyone that trades there, okay, which one is the real one? The price is going to tell you anything that you want to know. And it's not really an attack per se. It's just idiotic marketing from a company. And if that's the way they want to go, let them make their mistakes. It's fine. Don't protect companies from themselves.
Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here. I'd just like to thank everyone for watching and giving us a thumbs up and a share. We have 873 live viewers. We're moving on to issue 4. Issue 4, Deceptive.
Wait. I didn't answer that. Oh. I just, man, I had just a quick thought. It was, I already kind of lost it, but never mind.
All right, we'll come back to it later. Issue 4, Deceptive attack. Following on the presumed success of Segwit2X's longest chain attack, Segwit2X supporters such as Coinbase, Zappo, and Gemini, as well as Bitcoin.com, owned by Roger Ver, plan to rename Bitcoin to Segwit2X, causing complete confusion for new users who are seeking to buy Bitcoin, but may end up learning about and buying Segwit2X coins, furthering the corporation's argument that their Segwit2X Bitcoin will be the real one. Tone Vase, will Segwit2X's deceptive attack be successful?
No, I mean, Roger already tried that. Roger already tried naming Bcash Bitcoin, and that failed. Oh, and I remember what I was going to say. Jimmy or Thomas, you guys talked about the longest chain. That argument is dead. I mean, if the longest chain is Bitcoin,
did say in their blog that the longest chain would be the one. It was very surprising, but I agree that yes, technically the argument is only if you're following the same rule set. If you're both mining the same coin, if I have the longest chain of Dogecoin, it doesn't mean that I'm suddenly Bitcoin.
Well, even Bcash, right? I mean, Bcash is the longest chain, right? I mean, Bcash is way ahead of Bitcoin. So if that's the dumb argument,
they're ahead of Bitcoin, but they have less accumulated difficulty because of their emergency difficulty adjustment. So they're saying longest and has the most accumulated difficulty. And then that's a slightly different.
Does not have this emergency difficulty adjustment, right, Jimmy? B2X coin would not have.
Yeah, it absolutely will not, and I think it would be a mistake if they did.
All right.
Now that's going to be interesting, right? Because what's going to happen when they don't get 90% of the miners and they only get 20% of the miners, and their coin isn't being mined? They're probably going to get together on hard fork to create a new difficulty, proving just like Bcash, it's a bunch of guys in a room that think they know better.
All right, Jimmy, your thoughts on the deceptive attack?
Well, I mean, it's just kind of a branding issue. I don't think it's as big a deal as people think. Like these companies don't get to name things. I think it's it's not like they own Bitcoin.
Where Bitcoin doesn't have any copyrights on its name. Bitcoin has no company that can sue for it. They can't take the name Heinz Ketchup, but they can take the name Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Nobody owns the word Bitcoin. And if they try to do it, they're going to get a lot of pushback from the community, and they can't do anything about it either, right? Like if
now, again, the community is the old users. The new users won't know anything, and they'll just go to Google, type in Bitcoin, Coinbase, Bitcoin.com comes up. They'll be
and if they're stupid enough to just take Google's search result, then they kind of deserve what's coming to them. I mean, like if you're going to invest a lot of money, you really should do your research on it first, instead of just like believing whole hawk whatever like one website tells you or one commentator tells you. As much as I love you guys on this show, we should not be the only source of information. Okay, like, and same thing for Coinbase or any of these other places or any news outlet or whatever. You should be getting your news or your information about Bitcoin from multiple sources. And if you're not, you're just doing you're just being a bad investor. And if you're a bad investor, well, you're going to leave, you're going to be parted from your money soon enough anyway. So I'm not too worried about saving people from themselves. This is a common refrain that I have. And if these companies want to do that, I think it will hurt them more than anybody else. They can try it. And they think they'll succeed, and maybe they will. I don't know. I doubt that they will, but that's a possibility, I guess, in their mind. But you know, they can say, okay, this side is Bitcoin. Okay, great, go for it, try it. Let's see how the market reacts to you. Because if they think that they're going, if you label something Bitcoin, they buy it at $300, and you give them 2x coins, maybe they sue. Right? Maybe they go and say, hey, they deceived me, because you know, the common definition of Bitcoin everywhere else is this. And they said they were selling me Bitcoin. I thought I was getting a great deal, but I didn't. And then it went down in price. Now I want my money back. I mean, granted, they'll have like huge terms and conditions and all this stuff, so that new users, if they do buy it, and then they find out differently later that they can't get sued. But you're still going to get a lawsuit, and you still are going to have to deal with this stuff. So it's not free for these companies to be able to do this. They're taking some risk, legal liability risk, in doing it this way. That said, I mean, I think this is something I talked about at BlockCon when I did my talk. There's a social anti-fragility to Bitcoin. There's a community around Bitcoin that sort of keeps the rules, as it were. And if you try to change the definition of Bitcoin from under them, they will fight back. And the more you try to do that, the stronger they're going to be about it. And that's the anti-fragile part. The name Bitcoin will mean what the community says it means, not what you say it means. And you do that at your own peril, companies.
Now, Jimmy, what if Coinbase, Zappo, and Gemini do as Zappo said they're going to do to Bcash, where they would automatically sell their customers Bcash and use it to buy Bitcoin? What if they automatically sell their customers Bitcoin and use it to buy B2X coin?
Well, good luck on the legal liability front.
What if they pop up an announcement window, and the announcement says, your Bitcoin will automatically be upgraded. You have 5 Bitcoin. When you're done being upgraded, you'll have 50. And the person says, yes, I want more. I want 50.
Yeah, well, you know what? If you're so stupid as to believe
Sounds
that
like
that's the case.
OneCoin. Sounds a little bit like OneCoin.
And then you kind of deserve
double
it.
your coins in October. It's still October. They have time.
I mean, basically, you know, it's do whatever pleases you as a user. But if you're not doing research, if you're just sort of thinking that you're going to get 50 times the number of Bitcoin just because of whatever, then you kind of deserve it. I'm not going to try to save you from yourself. All I can do is tell you the information. That's all any of us can do. And if you're deceived by somebody, you might have grounds to sue. But if you knew everything and you know, you did your research and you still did it, then you're not going to be able to sue anyone because you did it all on your own. But yeah, these companies, you know, they're taking some risk in doing this, and good luck to them, right? Like, you know, if you want to take that chance, that's the calculation you've made. But if you're you know, going against what your lawyers are saying, then, you know, I mean, you might be doing something wrong. I don't know. But I mean, best of luck, right? I'm all for the markets figuring this out. And I think there's a social core of Bitcoin that's out there right now that will fight back and punch really hard. And you know, they might take all their coins out of your service. They might go to another service that they perceive to be friendlier to their side. And you're antagonizing them by doing this. So best of luck to you. And these are the people that everyone goes to for advice when they're starting to buy Bitcoin, right? It's like, okay, so I heard about this Bitcoin. What is it? And then, you know, they're the ones patiently explaining to them how it hard forked and how Coinbase is saying it's the most accumulated difficulty, but it's really not, and all that stuff. These are the people that you rely on. Well, you know, if they're recommending some other service than your own, I mean, there are consequences on top of consequences. There are second, third, fourth order effects that you better be counting on, or have calculated into your, you know, position. Otherwise, you might become the MySpace of exchanges or merchants or whatever it is. So be very careful. Tread lightly on this stuff. I really hope you've thought through it. If not, sorry, buddy. You might lose a lot of customers. You might lose to a competitor that knows how to do, you know, marketing better, that knows how to please the community, social community around Bitcoin better.
I would have said.
Any antidote to this libertarian at your own risk? What if they click yes to get 50 Bitcoins instead of 1?
Well, that's their problem. They need to learn more.
Jimmy, I would have said more like the Bernie Madoff funds that end up running a Ponzi scheme than MySpace.
All right, let's move on to the exit question. What can be done?
Before the exit question, I think I want to explain something that Linus Duckers asked a little bit ago. Accumulated difficulty is very different from longest chain. Jimmy, please clarify this. Yeah, so longest chain simply means more blocks, but if the block doesn't have that much difficulty in it, like it does on Bitcoin Cash, that's different than accumulated difficulty. So Bitcoin actually has more accumulated difficulty than Bitcoin Cash, even if Bitcoin Cash has a longer chain. And that's something that you definitely need to know. That said, with Segwit2X, because they don't have any sort of emergency difficulty adjustment, if they have majority hash rate, then they would probably have more accumulated difficulty.
I would actually love to see a more advanced formula for this. On top of that, factor in, the economic activity, factor in how much Bitcoin is being moved, how many transactions there are, and the accumulated fees. I would love to see all that in one formula in order to judge what is actually Bitcoin.
All right, and Jimmy Song, is there anything that can be done to stop the effectiveness of this deceptive attack, or you think it should just be allowed to happen?
I think it should be allowed to happen. I believe in the social anti-fragility of Bitcoin. I think the community of Bitcoin will hit back really, really hard. And these companies will feel the might of the Bitcoin community. And the thing about these things, again, if you attack it, you're stirring up a hornet's nest. Like I don't think they realize how much this is going to hurt. When you stir up a hornet's nest, you make the nest stronger, and that's what's going to happen with the community around Bitcoin. There's a social anti-fragility here. Whenever there's a disordering event like this, it just gets stronger, and I don't know if that's exactly what you want here.
All right, Tone Vase, what if users started boycotting, for example, Coinbase? What if they start withdrawing all their coins, posting screenshots of their deleted accounts? Would this have an effect on the companies? Got to unmute, Tone.
Sorry. Yeah, absolutely it will. I mean, look, even I remember when people were using their Apple iPhones as target practice when they removed all Bitcoin apps. This is a lot of our viewers probably don't remember this. You can Google back in like 2013, early 2014, when Apple removed all Bitcoin wallets from the Apple Store, and people were literally like destroying their iPhones, and it was public, and those videos got a lot of views, and they got airtime. These things matter. I mean, a lot of these companies, they do have investors, and these investors do have public pressure on them as well. Like, what do you mean how are you not your customer base is like speaking out and making huge waves about you? No, of course these things matter.
And while you guys have not convinced me, you've put up good arguments, and hopefully I'm less worried about the fork. However, I do believe we should prepare for the worst possible scenario. We should do everything we can so that if they do succeed on all of these various levels, that we have a response. We can't just sit by and be reactive. We have to play ahead of them. We have to think down this line. But we're running out of time, so let's go to Tone for a story of the week. Go ahead, Tone.
All right, so my story of the week, and I guess I'll do a screen share. Application. Oh, wait, I should probably open that up. Shoot. Give me 1 second here. There we go. Oh, wait, I have to go to application. There we go. All right, so my story of the week is basically what I saw today, that GBTC, and not GBTC, sorry, Barry Silbert has filed for a Zcash investment trust, which I think is completely ridiculous because, as you can see from the screenshot that I tweeted out, GBTC is one of the investors in Zcash, and it says it very clearly on their site that Zcash is skimming 20% of all mining rewards and just paying that money to investors. Okay, so now to me, this is a huge conflict of interest, and I don't understand how this isn't financial conflict of interest nor insider trading in a way, in order to pump this scam coin, in my opinion, into the public domain of a trust that then will probably end up as a pink sheet, being traded by anyone with a brokerage account the way he currently has GBTC. So that's pretty much it. And everyone is asking me in order to talk about price a little bit. I'm just going to go real quick because I do have to run. And the weekly is still bullish. I'm still looking for up to 6 more weeks of upside. The daily ran into a little bit of a problem the last few hours. I did go live just yesterday when we were back to crossing 6,000. I'm not really sure what's going on. I've been busy with traditional markets, but I'm not worried yet. It's to me, this cannot possibly be the all-time high. I've generally been right about these things. I could be wrong, but let's see how the week finishes. So far, the daily has not shown you a buy signal yet, but I'm still sticking with the bullish side. So we did have one of my 9s on the 4-hour leading to a 1 to 4 candle correction and then probably higher. So this is where you reevaluate. If the next candle is lower, then that's it. Then this becomes a downtrend. And the hourly is rebounding right now. So it's very possible that as of right now, we're going to trade back to the upside. But look, as this episode has shown, so I'm going to draw this arrow. I'm going to draw this arrow. So that 9 on the hourly is helping me say, hey, this is a tradable bounce to new highs. And I am looking for new highs from here. Now, the environment is very scary, but it's no scarier than it was, 7-8 months ago when we were at $1,300 thinking that, Bitcoin is never going to scale. So I'm still bullish here, but in general, we've gone up a lot, and sometime later this year, there should be a more sustained sell-off. If you profited from Bitcoin trading from 1 to 2,000 all the way to now, this is the time you look for an exit and then reevaluate your situation, maybe buy back in above 7,000. Otherwise, I wouldn't suggest going all in right here, but I don't think we topped for the year. I think there is another top, but percentage-wise, it's not going to be all that significant. I think we're going to be topping in my $6,000 to $7,500 range. We're technically in my range. I just closer to the top of that range than the bottom.
All right, thanks, Tone. And Jimmy, story of the week.
Well, I am going to Scaling Bitcoin with Tone next week. I'm also going to teach at Dev++. I am also going to teach at my seminar, Programming Blockchain. I did mention this story last week, but I want to repeat it. There's an alternate conference called DevCon 3 in Cancun with a bunch of Ethereum devs and stuff like that. It does look like kind of an ICO fest, and I just want to contrast the two because, scaling Bitcoin, there's a lot of academic papers on, all the interesting ways in which Bitcoin, they've done research on Bitcoin. Here's what the future of scaling Bitcoin will look like, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas, the other one's going to be, here's my ICO, here's my ICO, here's my other ICO, and here's my super interesting, new, different ICO that's exactly the same. So yeah, I would like to contrast that. I think you guys know what's going to be the more interesting thing going forward, and what's actually adding value to the ecosystem and not taking it away. Anyway, if you guys are in the Bay Area, I encourage you to check it out. Also, I'm just going to throw this out there. I have a friend that has a 25 Bitcoin Cassatius piece that he's looking to sell. If you are interested, let me know. That's it.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. And thanks to everybody for watching. We have 912 live viewers. And yes, it's fine if you want to say I've presented a worst possible case here. I still am convinced that we should prepare for this worst possible case so that in case it does happen, we are prepared. I'm going to keep talking about it pretty much every day until the hard fork, if, as Jimmy and Tone have said, are correct, if they only get 20% of the miners or 40% of the miners, less than 90, if the deception doesn't work, if the media says, hey, there's some confusion still, they don't just buy this longish hash, most users, most exchanges argument, which I find to be a very convincing argument that they've crafted. I'll be happy. I will be happy that Bitcoin doesn't crash and doesn't get all messed up and we don't split into a corporate controlled Bitcoin. I like the current Bitcoin core with the mailing list and the BIPs and everything. But I believe we should fight for it. I think we should be prepared to fight for it. And I'm going to have more on this in the next few days. Thanks to everybody for watching. If you'd like to donate, we have a Bitcoin address here. I know it's not a Segwit address. I need to upgrade my addresses and my graphics and all these things, but hopefully I'm going to have some time here. I've kind of stopped touring. I'm still in Europe, but I'm in Amsterdam where I've been before. So I don't really feel the need to tour as hard as I do when I go to a new place, and I'm super excited. But there is cool stuff here still that I want to see, and I'm having a great time in Amsterdam. And I'm going to be talking about this much, much more. But until next time, bye-bye. I believe Bitcoin is a great thing and worth fighting for, especially the second part.